offensive pressure isn't really that hard to learn. Once you know your options and you know to cycle through them, then your offense can be scary, kind of like no matter what level you're at. So the first thing is that different knockdowns will have different advantages. So some things you'll get more pressure out of. So if you get something like this, or back rise actually, you're not going to be in range to throw after. So this is what people mean when they say their OP is weaker. Basically they're not as close to their opponent, or they don't have as much advantage. An example of something that has really good Oki or advantage is when Seth lands a V skill, they dash and they're +3. +2 through 4 is pretty much where you want to be at in Street Fighter V, because that's when your throw is going to beat an opponent's normal attack. If your opponent wakes up jab, and you throw here, since you're +3, it'll beat the jab. So this is kind of how you can use training mode to figure things like this out. Now, what is offense in general? So the offense is really just a bunch of mix-ups. And the most basic one is if they're going to block or do something else. So let's say you knock them down, right? And let's say you have perfect Oki. This is like pretty much perfect Oki, because every option you have is going to work. You can get a meaty throw, you can get a meaty attack. The reason this is weaker is because you can get the meaty attack, but you can't get the meaty throw. Okay, the term meaty, what that be do? Meaty is, I don't actually know how people came up with this term, but it's basically timing your attack so that it hits the opponent just as they're waking up. So this is a meaty crouch medium punch. It beats the opponent's wake up jab. And this is a meaty throw if I time it right. You're doing it just as the opponent wakes up. So if you do something meaty, you do it to beat if they wake up jab. Is there a way to tell when it's meaty, or do you just know? I don't think there's the best way in training mode is to set your opponent's option to wake up jab, and then try it out yourself. So wake up option, then set wake up option. The best players are able to time their meaties, so basically time their attacks to beat wake up jabs. I think like 90% of the time, at least. But the thing is, it's not completely perfect, because you'll still see pro players like wake up jab, press jab, and between strings where the opponent doesn't time their attack correctly. So in a knockdown like this, unless you have what's called a frame kills, I know that 2 jabs will make my 3rd jab meaty. That's what's called a frame kill. You can find that in training mode. You can find that other ways, but the reason it's not that great to find frame kills is because the opponent can change up their wake up timing. So then the same frame kill doesn't work for all wake ups. In general, your knockdown's not going to allow for a perfect meaty, so you're going to have to time it. But it should be pretty easy as long as you practice it. One situation in which you get a guaranteed meaty, on this B skill knockdown, you're +3, and the opponent can't quick rise or can't back rise. So this crouch medium punch, if you do it immediately, it's gonna meaty. People actually use another term for meaty. It's when attacks hit on a later active frame. They'll say that attack hit meaty, which is like, it's the same word, but people just say it in a different tone or something and means something different. But what this means, so normally you see crouch jab is +4. I can't do stand medium punch after. But on this specific knockdown, it times the crouch jab such that it hits on the later active frame. And you can see it's +5 in this situation. And that's because crouch jab might have like 3 active frames, and normally it'll hit on the first active frame, but in this situation it hits on the second active frame. So I still take the same amount of time to recover, but the opponent takes 1 extra frame to recover from the hit stun. That's why it's +5 instead of +4. That might be a confusing explanation, but in essence, something that hits meaty just makes it more advantage. And it lets you do combos that you couldn't otherwise do. That's the basics. But once you establish this mind game, it's a mix-up. Your offense is now a mix-up. If they wake up and block, then your meaty will lose. But it's fine since you keep your pressure. And if they wake up and press a button, your button will win. If they wake up and block and your throw will win. If they wake up and try to tech your throw, then the tech will happen. So that's the basic mix-up. It's between hit or throw, and that's like a 50-50 kind of. The reason it's only kind of is because there's a thing called delayed tech. And it's when you block and then you throw. So you can see he's blocking at first, but then he's teching. So if I throw immediately, he'll tech it. If I press the button immediately, he'll block it. So that makes the throw meaty game, it'll beat both of those options. Delay throw will beat meaty throw, and it'll beat meaty button. Meaty will not beat Wake Up DP. Wake Up DP is invincible, and the meaty will be out there and it'll get hit by the DP. Like, you can see all the different options. Some of them beat other options, some of them lose to other options. This will lose to, from the ones we've talked about so far, doing an instant meaty or doing like a meaty button, this will beat them trying to press a button on Wake Up. It'll beat them trying to jump out on Wake Up. It'll lose to Wake Up DP. It'll lose to delay tech. And it'll lose to just blocking. Pretty much everyone at, I guess, like higher levels, you never immediately grab. And the reason for that is delay grab just beats the meaty option. But there is an option to beat this. There's multiple options actually. The first is to delay your button slightly. So instead of doing it immediately when they wake up, do it a little bit later. And this way you can counter hit them. You're basically trying to match their timing. But this is a little bit risky because if you delay too much, you'll get back thrown. That's a lot of the times this is why you would lose a round. But this is also what people would call a frame trap. And then the second option, this is what people call a shimmy. When you bait the throw by walking back. Walk back, you see that they threw, and then you punch it with something. So now you see that delay throw loses to 2 other things. It loses to frame trap, and it loses to a shimmy. Hitting buttons does beat the shimmy. So if I shimmy, or I delay buttons, if I press this button late, or if I shimmy, the wake up jab is just gonna come out and I won't be doing anything. I go for a shimmy. I just don't get any more pressure because I thought they were gonna throw tech, they actually jab. If I delay my button, the jab will come out, right? Yes, and shimmy will actually lose to, if you're standing up while you shimmy, this will actually lose to wake up crouching low attack. There's constantly, some options beat options, will beat some options, and then other beat options will lose to other options, and you just have to mix it up between them, between all of your options. On offense, your main ones are throw, media attack, delay media attack, or shimmy. And there's even more options when you're not immediately here. The basic idea is once you're at this range and you have advantage, you can either walk up for the throw, or you can immediately press a button. And immediately pressing a button here will beat if they immediately press a button, and walking up for the throw will beat if they are scared to press a button. So it's just constantly like, that's why you'll see a lot of top players, they go for they'll like do this kind of movement, go for the throw. It's because they know the opponent is scared. If they press a button and get counter hit there, that's a lot of damage, so they would be willing to just take the throw. On defense you have a couple more options than the ones that I listed. You also have backdash. This will sort of beat throws. It'll definitely beat throws mid-screen, but the ways it beats throws in the corner, it gives you a little more advantage once the throw is. But jump also will beat the throw. So those are your options. Seth can wake up jump axe kick. This will be a throw. So the idea with like pressure and defense is you're just constantly mixing up between these options, and while you're doing this you also have to understand risk reward. So how risky is your option? Is it worth it to take this risk? How often should I be risking pressing a button on wake up, teching a throw on wake up, delay teching? Am I willing to just always tech the throw? These are things that you have to decide very quickly, and it's kind of why the offense game is so exciting, because there's a lot of options you have to cycle through, and you're not going to just be picking them randomly with a certain chance. It depends on the situation. If you want to learn more about risk reward, I have a YouTube video already for this. It's just called Concept of Fighting's Risk versus Reward. But I guess the part that's not in that video is what your options on offense and defense actually are. So I hope this was helpful for that. Any other questions on offense or defense? Thanks everyone for tuning in.